The concerns over Nigeria's debt burden seems to be far from over this week. Statistics from the Debt Management Office, the DMO, revealed that the national debt value as at the end of March 2025 is 149 trillion naira. But what do these latest debt statistics really mean, and what is the outlook for the next 6 months? Well, tonight we dive into understanding more about this, and data scientist who is the founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst Babajide Ogunsonwo is right here with me on the news at 10. Thank you very much, Babajide, for joining us on the program.
Good evening, Anne.
There seems to be different interpretations when you look at the national debt report. Which one is fake news and what is real?
So it depends on how we want to look at it. First there's fake news, there's the fact, and there's the truth. So perhaps I'll explain the fake news first. The fake news is, yes, we're talking about the national debt position of 149 trillion naira, but that isn't the money owed by the federal government. So if anyone says the money owed by the federal government is the equivalent of that national debt figure, that is fake news. The fact is, the federal government owns the majority of that debt position. So 92% of that 149 trillion naira is owed by the federal government. So if we're to look at the national debt figure of 149 trillion naira, 137 trillion naira of that figure, 92%, is what is owed by the federal government. The rest is owed by the states and the FCT. But the real concern is, because the federal government accounts for 92% of the national debt figures, that is why a lot of pressure is on the federal government to explain what exactly has all of this debt been used for. So we've clarified between what is fake and what is fact. But what is the truth, Anne? The truth is nothing really weakens a government as the poor use of debt. And so, yes, over the years, we've been talking about the cost of debt. The conversations we need to start having now is, what exactly are the returns on this debt? And so whenever we see the Debt Management Office talking about our debt service, we need to elevate our conversations to include what are the returns on this debt, what exactly are the results of this debt, both intangible returns and intangible returns, because then it allows us to easily match our cost of debt with our returns on debt. For instance, I would like us to take a look at where exactly was the federal government's debt position when the government came in as at the end of the first quarter of 2023, and what the Debt Management Office says it is today. And these are the facts. And as at the end of quarter one, the federal government's domestic debt in naira, 24.7 trillion naira, and that has grown by 203%. So the debt figures as at the end of March this year, 74.8 trillion naira. Again, that is a growth in excess of 50 trillion naira for additional debt within the next 2 years. And again, that's just domestic debt. In simple terms, the federal government has acquired additional domestic debt of 50 trillion naira in 2 years. That is the facts from the Debt Management Office on the domestic borrowing perspective. The second is the external borrowing perspective. There's some good news, relatively good news, because we see that those figures have not grown like the domestic debt. So clearly we understand where the borrowing strategy is domestic debt. So as at end of quarter one, 2023, external debt was $37 billion, monies owed by the federal government. Now, external debt position is approximately $41 billion, a growth of about 11% within 2 years. So the real headache, Anne, is domestic borrowing. 50 trillion naira in 2 years. Those are the facts from the Debt Management Office.
All right, so let's look at the debt reports that we know, the facts actually. How does it affect Nigeria's credit rating and the cost of new borrowing going forward?
So, you know, I talked about the returns on debt. The challenge we have is we have focused more on the cost of debt without really matching it with what exactly are we getting in return for this debt, both tangible and intangible, and we have to quantify it. Now, with credit rating, our position is open. In chess, there's a position called the Maroczy bind. When your positions are open, a lot will be determined on how you play. The concerns we have today is a lot of the institutions Nigeria is owing money are the institutions that are still borrowing us a lot of more money. So we're in a Maroczy bind, our positions are open. To be clear and to make this easy for everyone to understand, and I want us to take a detailed look at how much the federal government's revenue has been in the last 3 years and how much have we been paying as debt, because it allows us to look at the facts and understand the real challenges we face today. These are the facts from the National Bureau of Statistics. Federal government revenue in 2022, 5.3 trillion naira. Debt service in 2022, 5.6 trillion naira. In 2022, it simply means that our debt service was more than our revenue. 2023, revenue 5.9 trillion naira. Debt service 8.5 trillion naira. Debt service again more than revenue in 2023. The same thing in 2024. Our debt service more than our income. The summary of what has happened in the last 3 years, 2022 to 2024, shows that the federal government has earned an income of 20.6 trillion naira, and debt service has not only taken all of that income, we've had to, in principle, borrow more money to pay debt. And these are the facts. 3 years, 20.6 trillion naira revenue, debt service, 25 trillion naira. So the question again is, what are the returns on this debt? Yes, are we about to go bankrupt or broke? The answer is no. We do not have facts on that. What we have facts are what is in front of us, which is we are paying a lot more in terms of principal and interest on our debt than we are making income. Those are the real concerns. And clearly, is this sustainable? It is not the way to go, Anne.
But when we look at these reports again, because that's what we're referring to, what influence would this decision make, or how would this influence the decision of the Central Bank of Nigeria at its next Monetary Policy Committee meeting?
Businesses are complaining, and so we can clearly see, even from the domestic borrowing perspective, medium-sized businesses have been crowded out. The federal government has borrowed almost all the available money. So we have interest rates, even for prime customers, 30%, 35%. So those are the concerns. As of 2 years ago, MPR was about 18.75%, now over 27%. Interest rate, double digits, still about 24%. Inflation rate. So the summary is our approach to our economic and financial model has to change, has to be more people-centric. Yes, from 2026, the impact of the tax reforms clearly has shown that the federal government needs to earn significantly more income. So hopefully that will play a part. Even if you take a look at how the central bank governor has also put it in recent times, and if you take a look at his statements on why we need to go to have a more people-centric model in our quote of the week, it is clear that our people, the people, have to become more productive. That is really where the income will come from. And according to the CBN governor, the ultimate resource in Nigeria's economic development is the people. To develop our economy, the return on people is even more important than the return on investment. And part of getting higher returns on people is making the people more productive, having more people to join the formal job market, and then grow the economy by focusing a lot more on the people than focusing on our current monetary and financial framework, which is good, which there's room for a lot of growth, but the people, without the people, we will still be in this position whereby our debt service is significantly more than the revenues the federal government is earning.
All right, thank you very much. Babajide Ogunsanwo, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, for all the numbers on the news at 10.
We'll keep cracking this again next week, Anne.
We will.